1, 2, 3, and we are live.
Hello, and welcome to our webinar, a practical guide to disaggregated networks. Afribone and IP Infusion present keys to success. I'm Kelly LeBlanc, Chief Marketing and Product Officer at IP Infusion, and today I have with me a very special guest, Eric Stevance, Chief Executive Officer for Afribone. IP Infusion and Afribone have been working together for over 6 years now to deliver open networking innovation to customers. And here you can see our agenda for today. Our webinar runs for 45 minutes. We will start with an introduction to our speaker guest, followed by introductions to open network disaggregation and open networking. And then Eric will introduce Afribone's open networking journey with IP Infusion, including highlights from working with us as our customer for over 6 years. At the end, I will conduct a live Q&A with Eric, and please feel free to answer any questions that you have using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We will also reserve time to answer any questions that you have. Now, I'd like to ask my guest to introduce himself. Eric, please introduce yourself and tell the audience why you're qualified to speak about open networking.
Kelly, thank you for the invitation. So I'm Eric Stevance. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Afribone, an ISP in Mali, in West Africa, since 1999. And we have been working on the networking since that time, and with OcNOS and IP Infusion since 2019, so 6 years now.
Yes, it's been an incredible journey together, and we're so happy to welcome you to our webinar today.
Thank you.
So let's get started. All right, so today we're going to speak about a practical guide to disaggregated networks, which we also call open networking. And it starts by separating the software from the hardware to give customers greater freedom and greater choice. And we do this with our OcNOS network operating system. So OcNOS provides an alternative to incumbent vendors' legacy solutions. And the value that we provide over these incumbent legacy solutions is lower cost, shorter lead times, greater flexibility, and a very simple licensing model. And on the other side, you can see we also compete against open networking vendors. And we win against these open networking vendors because our software is proven. We have 25 years of deployment in the world's largest networks. Our software is ready to run and fully supported. And just this year, we celebrated our Silver Jubilee anniversary, celebrating 25 years in networking. So IP Infusion delivers an industry-leading advantage for open networking, and we do this with our OcNOS network operating system. OcNOS has over 700 modern networking features. We support over 40 white box hardware platforms, and we have qualified over 100 optical transceivers to work with OcNOS. Last year, we also introduced our IP Maestro management system, and as you can see, IP Maestro provides centralized monitoring and management, and we do this through a point-and-click GUI to simplify OcNOS management. So we sell our OcNOS network operating system. We sell our software. We also sell a complete bundle with the software, hardware, and optics all together with a single point of support with 24/7 support for peace of mind. So here you can see our end-to-end use cases. So OcNOS provides network disaggregation for end-to-end use cases from service providers to data center use cases, and we provide a single SKU for all of these use cases, from access to aggregation to core networks and to data center. And as you can see, our software has an entire portfolio of very popular features from layer 2, layer 3, timing and synchronization, carrier Ethernet, segment routing MPLS, MPLS with EVPN, EVPN VXLAN, streaming telemetry, and much more. And our software also scales from 32 gigabits per second all the way up to 51.2 terabits per second. It is the same software giving tremendous scale for the different use cases, and we're helping our customers with their transitions, for example, from 100 gig to 400 gig, which includes our support for the 400 gig ZR/ZR Plus optics. So now what I'd like to do is turn it over to Eric to share how we have been working together for his services that he has built to support his customers for working together for over 6 years. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Kelly, for the introduction. So I will do a quick presentation of Afribone. So Afribone is an ISP in Mali since for 26 years now. And since the beginning in the 2000, we have been working mainly on layer 3 connectivity with our upstream provider. So we were taking some IP transit with a local telco, and we were providing internet connectivity to our customer, mainly enterprise at the beginning and small end user, and providing internet via wireless. So due to the technology of wireless, we needed to be quite close to our customers. So we had to do some point of presence POP close to our customer in Bamako, in the capital of Mali. And on each POP of this wireless connectivity, we had to install router and equipment to be able to manage the connectivity and the authentication of our customer. We're still using PPPoE for the end user. So due to this connectivity, we were using at the beginning on a core router some Cisco, because we were familiar with the Cisco Catalyst. And remotely, we were using small, I would say at the beginning, router using Linux routing. We were using Zebra, Quagga solution, but also MikroTik. And we had something like 5-10 remote sites within the capital. And we were providing this connectivity thanks to those different kind of routers. As an ISP in Africa, in Mali, money is an issue, and so we needed to be cost effective. So we had always worked with open source solution. So it was the only way for us to be able to sustain our activity as long as the cost was efficient. So for the routing, the main router were Cisco, because we were confident with those Cisco Catalyst, and we were doing at the beginning only a small BGP session with our upstream provider. And at the end of 2000s, we got our own AS number. And thanks to this AS number, we could start doing some other kind of BGP, and we were starting some exchange points within Mali. In the 2010s, the market was growing. The audience has to understand that in Mali, the connectivity was very, very expensive. And until 2018, for instance, the bandwidth that we had, international bandwidth, was less than 750 megabits. So it was very, small bandwidths compared to the rest of the world. But for us, it was very expensive. But in the 2018, there was some change on the Malian market thanks to the local regulatory that had changed the way the telco were reselling this internet bandwidth costs. So thanks to this change, even if it took time in 2018, we knew that the market would change, and we needed to expand a lot of our network and to be able to provide more capacity to the customer and we needed to get more POP within the capital. So, for instance, from 5-6 POPs at that time, now we have around 30 POPs inside the capital. So the need to grow, to create more routing, more connectivity was a big issue. And inside our what we call at that time data room, we had we wanted to change our data room to a data center. So we needed to expand the way we were doing the switching for our servers and the equipment we wanted to host for our customer. So we were thinking of doing switching using Tor, switch, spine tree, etc. So the need to change and to upgrade our equipment was really necessary. And we need to go from 1 gig ports to at least 10 gig ports. So I was looking around, and I knew that to be able to go to layer 2 VPLS, MPLS solution was something I needed to do. And when I was looking on the market with other relationships, I understood that other carrier, well-known carrier, was very expensive solution. And so I tried to do with some labs with MikroTik equipment. It was working quite fine. But for the main side, the NOC, and I was looking for a hardware more sophisticated, more carrier grade. And I started to investigate for at least for switching, and I got some, for instance, Dell equipment, 48 ports. And when I was getting those equipment, I knew that I could change the network operating system of those device to something more evaluate. And at that time, I was looking for OpenSwitch. So that I installed on the Dell switch, and that was in 2018. And at the same time, I was looking, of course, my research on internet, and I found out about IP Infusion and the OcNOS solution. And so I think at the end of 2018, I had this first discussion with OcNOS team. And in the beginning of 2019, I could order a few devices. At that time it was Edgecore device, but it was mainly to do switching for the data center. And I got those license, and I started playing and installing the spine, the Tor switches on in our data center. I got also some more powerful hardware to do or to start doing some OSPF, BGP. It was mainly the beginning, and also working and step by step to a layer 2 and MPLS solution. So in 2020, we had the opportunity, yes, to really upgrade our network, and using, like, as you can see on the diagram, P-on-P router solution. And so at least for the main sites in our data center, the main core router we were switching everything to Edgecore or UfiSpace hardware, and on top of that, the OcNOS. So we were doing at least the layer 2, the OSPF, the layer 3, and we were starting the MPLS, VPLS, and EVPN solution. And but we were also using MikroTik on the remote sites. And imagine that the remote sites we had around, now it's around 20 or 30 sites, but it is mostly in POP where we don't have, we have just a small power. So there is no air conditioners. Everything can be very hot. Now, today in Mali, in Bamako, it's more than 40 degrees. So those sites are very harsh condition. And at that time, Edgecore or UfiSpace didn't have a solution for harsh environment, so warm environment. So we kept using some MikroTik that was working. Of course, maybe it was not the best condition for them also, but at least it was working, and and if we needed to change those kind of hardware, it was quite easy to change. But in 2021, I think, UfiSpace came out with other device, less ports, but with that could go up to 55 or 60 or more degrees. And so we were very happy by this kind of hardware. So we have ordered quite a lot of such hardware to be able to change those MikroTik router that was on a POP, and to be able to use this OcNOS solution that was more exactly what we wanted to do. And at the same time, in 2021, as you can see on the next slide, we have starting establishing some international private link from Bamako to Paris, and 2 different data centers in Paris, and using 2 different routes. One was going to Dakar and using a submarine cable up to Europe. And the second one is another IPLC link to Abidjan, using a second submarine cable to a second data center in Paris. And so in 2022, all our connectivity was directly done via other IP transit than our local telco IP transit. So thanks to this connectivity, the layer 2 up to those remote sites, we could start managing our own connectivity to a carrier like Cogen, Zayo, Open Transit, and TT. So we have installed on those different remote POP. So in Paris, 2 POP in Paris, 1 in Dakar, Abidjan. So we have installed our OcNOS routers to be able to provide connectivity from layer 2 MPLS all around those sites. And we have connectivity, BGP connectivity with full BGP table with a different carrier. And also we have started connectivity with IX exchange points. So France IX, for instance, at Paris, we have 2 connectivity, 2 10 gig, and another one with AMS-IX at Amsterdam. And we could start also another one from Abidjan to AMS-IX in Lagos. So all those routers are OcNOS, so talking with other vendors, of course. It could be Cisco, Juniper, or whoever. And at Bamako, we have also an exchange point where we have also some connectivity. But the main exchange point are in Lagos, France IX at Paris, and AMS-IX in Amsterdam. So so we were very confident by those hardware and the software for remote maintenance that we have installed. Everything is controlled by our NOC here at Bamako, and everything is running smoothly. And I think we have changed a lot of the way we were working like 6 years ago, just doing IP transit locally in Bamako. Now we are directly connected to any peer that you can imagine in the rest of the world. And so now we still working a lot to increase those kind of connectivity with these different partners in West Africa to be able to create more traffic within ourselves to avoid going, to Europe or the rest of the world directly.
Wow, that's a wonderful summary of your evolution with OcNOS, Eric.
Yes.
Thank you so much for providing our audience with all of this background. I think it's a perfect time for us to open up the Q&A that we'll do together so we can give even more understanding on this journey. I wanted to remind the audience you have the opportunity to ask your questions as well, so please do so using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will continue to answer them. I see that we have been answering a lot of questions already. So with that, let's start our Q&A. And really what I'd like to do is to provide a deeper understanding for our audience on Afribone's perspective on open networking. So as we saw from Eric's background, he has successfully migrated off of Cisco equipment. He is also transitioning from MikroTik gear. And you had a lot of vendors you could choose from when you were deciding to upgrade your network. So I want to, if you could share a little bit more about with the audience on why did you select open networking as your alternative to the legacy vendors from the beginning?
Yes, I mean, as I tried to explain earlier, I mean, Afribone is an ISP in Mali, West Africa. So with not all the money, the finance that you can imagine, we have not that many customers. The market is quite small also. So the way we need to find the good hardware, the good technical solution is very important. It has to be very cost effective. But at the same time, it has to be as good as any other things. So because we will be connecting to any IP transit or exchange points, so we need to be able to provide the same kind of quality to our customer as if they were connected to any kind of ISP in the rest of the world. So when we have selected OcNOS, it was, as I explained, a step-by-step try or labs. And at that time, there was no OcNOS VM as you have now to test. So I remember in my room, I mean, in my office, I had some different equipment, the electric equipment. So I have got the first software from OcNOS, and we tried, and it was working fine. The hardware was cost effective also, so we just start buying more and installing more, and 6 years after, we're still doing a lot.
Yes, and that's a great story, testing and certainly taking advantage now of the virtual machine, the demo virtual machine that we have. Anytime we make a change, or a transition, there's always concerns. So no doubt you had some concerns when you were migrating to open networking. Maybe you can share with the audience a little bit about what were those concerns at that time and how did you overcome them?
Well, the concern was for us, we were doing only layer 3 connectivity, very common, like OSPF, routing, static route, etc., and BGP. But we knew that we had to be able to provide layer 2 over those backbones. So we were thinking about Ethernet over IP, but that was not maybe the right solution. So MPLS came out like the solution to do it. And we had some labs with MikroTik. It was working quite well. But when we could do it with the OcNOS software, at that time was not the same version, but was also working fine. And we were happy and more confident because the hardware on top of OcNOS is very important also, because at that time, MikroTik, for instance, didn't have like 48 ports of routers. So, but of course, Dell or Edgecore or UfiSpace had such hardware. So when we could get such an hardware at decent price and a NOS that was working very well, I mean, we were very happy.
All right. And you certainly did a lot of research to start this transition. And I'm curious, how did you originally find us?
Internet, if we had no internet in Mali, we would do nothing. So even if we exchange with others, I mean, the research, I mean, it is very important. What maybe we can discuss a bit later after this, but what was important for us, and maybe at that time I was a little bit worried, is the community. On internet, as we were working a lot with open source software, the way to be able to see others having similar issue or other kind of solution. We have lots of community on Cisco user, Juniper or MikroTik. But when at the beginning with OcNOS or IP Infusion, there was not so much, there was no community, in fact. And so I was a little bit worried about this because I didn't want to be alone and to be able to, to see, and hopefully it was working. But I mean, at the beginning I was a bit worried. But thanks to your documentation that was very well written, and I could read and I could understand exactly what to do. And in a way, it was very similar that what we were doing with Cisco router. The CLI, the logical was exactly the same. So I mean, in a way, I was confident, and 6 years after, I mean, I can see that IP Infusion has well developed, even the community now, and I think it's a good step now.
Great. Yes. Well, you took a big risk, a leap of faith. So far, so good. And how about any technical challenges along the way? Any technical challenges to share that you've been able to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, when you learn something new and you are a little bit alone, I mean, of course, it takes time, and you make a mistake, but over the time, I mean, solution was quite obvious, even if sometimes the configuration is not perfect. I mean, you have to learn to understand what to do, but it was not that complex to develop. The logical that you have with OcNOS is similar than other type of NOS on the market.
Yes. And I think one of the things the audience would really appreciate is a little bit of discussion on replacing the legacy gear. So let's talk a little bit first about migrating from Cisco in the core. So what was your experience migrating off the Cisco onto OcNOS in the core?
I mean, migrating from Cisco to the router was very easy, very straightforward, because the configuration was very similar. I mean, the logical, of course, was very similar, so there was no issue at all to migrate.
Okay, very good. Yes, I think having the familiarity with the CLI certainly helps.
Exactly, yes.
As long as as well as the documentation. So let's move over to the MikroTik side, and I see we're getting some questions on this as well. So I was going to ask you about your experience migrating from MikroTik, especially for your MPLS networks. We're getting questions about how difficult was the transition from MikroTik to OcNOS, cost comparison, etc. So I think this is a topic that this audience is very interested in. So let's go for it.
Yes, I mean, in fact, I had developed almost at the same time the solution on MikroTik and on OcNOS. So the migration of OSPF layer 3 connectivity was very, straightforward. There was no problem with this. The only thing that at the same time I was changing all the network, regular IPv4 to MPLS network, using VPLS, using those protocol. I did it at the same time on MikroTik and on OcNOS. Sometimes there was some kind of small issue, but currently, I mean, as you can see on my previous diagram, I mean, have a core router on OcNOS, for instance, talking with P router on MikroTik, or OcNOS router talking to PE MikroTik. It's working very well. The only main thing that you cannot do with MikroTik currently is EVPN. So I'm doing EVPN only with OcNOS, for instance.
All right. And is there anything you can speak about cost or ROI compared to MikroTik? We're getting a question on that.
Yes. MikroTik is much less expensive because of the hardware. The hardware itself is, I would say, maybe much less expensive than Edgecore or UfiSpace. But the need to, and even in ISP in Africa, you need to have hardware that's more carrier grade, more robust, and in a way more powerful was very important for us, because we compete with telco that have much more capacity than us. So we have to be as good as possible, and we have we cannot take too much risk of equipment that could fail, hardware failing, I mean. And so the idea was to get more carrier grade equipment. So Edgecore or UfiSpace was more like this kind of equipment. But with such a NOS like OcNOS, that was the best combination.
Yeah, I think perhaps you also looked at future proofing. So for features such as the segment routing MPLS
Exactly,
and
yes.
such with OcNOS. Okay.
Yes, yeah, segment routing. I mean, it's something I'm looking at. MikroTik, for instance, I don't support this yet. So that's one of my reasons I have not moved to segment routing, because I have a mixture of all those kind of routers. So it might be not very easy to segment all of this, but I will do it, yes. And at the same time, we moved from to all those kind of new routing. I was doing IPv6. So I started also the ISIS protocol, and it was working fine with OcNOS. I had some difficulty at that time with MikroTik. They just recently improved this, and is now also stable.
All right. Well, you've spoken about several use cases now. So in fact, you are one of our customers who's using our SKUs across the various use cases: data center, MPLS, cell site router SKUs. So what is your experience using the same OcNOS for all of these different use cases?
As you can understand, I mean, the way when you have the same NOS, I mean, it's helpful, because whatever you do is you have the same kind of configuration, the same CLI, the same documentation to learn or to read. So I mean, it's very easy to to move from one hardware to another hardware when you have the same NOS. Yeah.
Okay. And I want to talk a little bit about the white box hardware. So you mentioned how you're running OcNOS on hardware from Edgecore, hardware from UfiSpace. In fact, this is true network disaggregation. So how is it going with the integration across different platforms?
Very transparent. There's no, even we were using Dell. We're still using Dell switches with IP-based OcNOS. So yeah, it's very straightforward. There is no problem of compatibility.
Okay, very good. And how about, so we're getting more questions on the return on investment topics.
Yes.
So maybe so for example, we're getting a question on costing versus Juniper. Had you looked at costing versus the MX series, the MX204, anything like this?
No. I mean, maybe I should have. Maybe it's too late. But in fact, I knew more about the cost of Cisco routers at that time when I needed to invest in new hardware, and the cost was so different. And so, I mean, as soon as, I mean, I was even thinking of using only open source solution like OpenSwitch at that. So OpenSwitch is working well also, but there is no MPLS, there's nothing like this. So that's why when I found IP Infusion with OcNOS, I mean, it was really the good way to go. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And is there any additional return on investment that you've had? You know, for example, as we have the industry standard CLI, I'm assuming it's less training for your team, so that could
Yes.
be a return on investment. Having a full service support, perhaps. Having someone to call if there's an issue. There's always issues.
Yes.
That could be something. So, how have you been working with our support team?
Yes. In fact, when you are in a bit far away from any help or assistance, you have to do first by yourself a lot. So you have to master it could be MikroTik, Cisco, or OcNOS now. But what I have very enjoy with IP Infusion is your support. It's very, very efficient, and even small question is taken seriously. And so sometimes there's problem with feature, the documentation explains certain way and you cannot implement as it is described. And when I request some help or assistance, I had always some feedback. I've worked a lot with your support for sometimes some bugs. But they were very proactive, and usually very quickly I got some build to test and see how it was working before you release a new general availability version. Yes.
Okay, yes, good. Yes, it's always nice to speak with a human, isn't it? Yes.
Yes.
And so you've shared a lot of topics on your migration, and is there anything in terms of lessons learned that you think could be helpful for this audience who's also considering this migration?
In fact, maybe it was everything happening sometime at the right time. For us, the challenge of cost for international link was, in 2018 was, we were facing high cost and we could solve a little bit this cost at that time. And at the same time, OcNOS was, starting to be available on the market, and we can find some hardware at a different cost. So everything was all together at the right time for us for the development of our network. If we hadn't such tools, hardware and software, I think we couldn't have developed the way we have done it, and creating POPs in different countries now, mainly because of the resource that we have in a country like in Mali. So we have, I don't know if you have seen on the map, but we are land country. Everything is very expensive. So cost is, it's a challenge for us. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your future plans. So do you have any plans for expanding OcNOS and Whitebox for new use cases?
Yes, we need to change more MikroTik side where we with UfiSpace or Edgecore hardware. So there is still, need to do that, and we're thinking of more than 10 gig connectivity. So I know there's some solution with your hardware and OcNOS. So it has opened my mind to other kind of possibility that even a few years ago I was not thinking of. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, sky's the limit. So it sounds like you have a lot of ideas how you will keep moving in this direction. And so my final question for you, Eric, is if you have one key message that you could give to your peers regarding your experience with open networking, what would it be? Just one key message.
Do it. No, do it, try it. Now you have the chance to have a demo, OcNOS demo or VM solution, and it's working well. And I've even done more than what I was supposed to do, I think, with such a VM, because, we use VM for sometime, not OcNOS in this case, but like FR routing solution to do routing server or routing reflector. And you can try everything with the OcNOS demo now and on the VM, and I think it's very interesting to test before investing in an hardware. Yes.
Wow, well, thank you for that. That's a nice mention of our demo VM, which of course you can get on our website. So all of the audience is welcome to go to our website and download the demo VM, and you can test it on your own.
Yes.
All right, so that concludes my Q&A section, and I have looked here. It looks like we've done a great job to answer all of the audience's questions throughout this Q&A. If anyone has any final questions, you're welcome to put them into the chat, into the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Also, we're available after the call, of course, to take any further questions that anyone has. So as I don't see any further questions coming in, what I would like to do now is to thank Eric. Eric, thank you so much for being our featured guest on the webinar today. This was an excellent discussion. And I also want to thank all of our audience for attending. And once again, if you have any further questions for us, you can come into our website and contact us directly. And with that, we will say thank you very much. And until next
Okay.
time,
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Kelly.
thank you.